right. Looks good now.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to call to order the October 9th, 2023 Harvest Ferry regular town council meeting to order. Would you all please stand and join me in the pledge? My pledge allegiance to the Thank you. First item, your whole agenda.
Let's make a adjustment to the agenda.
Sure.
I'd like to move item number 7 to the front of the meeting. That can be after maybe item number 3. I'd like to move it to item number 3. I think there's a lot of people here that want to figure out from item number 7.
Okay, I'm not hearing you too well, so speak up with her.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'd like to make an adjustment to the agenda, and I would like to make a motion to move item number 7, new business, 7A, to the front of the meeting under or after item 2, so that it becomes item 3 for the meeting. I think a lot of people here tonight want to hear the outcome of that meeting and don't want to sit here until 10 o'clock.
I second that. And then discussion on the motion to remove item 7A following item 2. All those in favor of the motion to move your thing.
I'm going to move 5G2 to be after that item for the same reason. There are a lot of people here for that item.
I second that.
Yes. I'm still not sure how the number changes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to move 5G2 following 7A that followed 2.
And that's all items under 5G, so I'm correct?
No, 5G2.
Sorry, just 5G.
Okay,
Just
anything else?
5G2. Okay, sorry.
Anything else?
I would suggest a change. I would like to move that we put off the approval of minutes until a special meeting. That is, we have on my text that I received 7 sets of minutes. We have on the agenda 6. It's my understanding, I just received the latest. My understanding the corrections are coming in the evening here, even, and that I've tried to digest some of it, but I think it would do disservice. You, by the way, did a great effort in getting all these in front of us. Thank you very much.
We can't review meetings, minutes of a special meeting. They can only be done in a.
Well, then I changed what I said.
If the special meeting is posted with 3 days before the special meeting date, we can approve the meeting minutes.
Okay, well, then I
suggest we move it to a later meeting and not specify special or regular. If we can do it during a special, then we can. You accept that?
accept that. I motion that we postpone the approval of all the minutes listed here on the agenda until a later meeting to be specified.
Second on the motion. Second. Who seconded that? Sure. Discussion on a motion to postpone item number 3 to a later meeting.
We have been putting off minutes for quite a while, and I'm wondering if it would. I know Nita and I think Nita's been corresponding with some other folks today too, but I'm wondering if there are some of the sets of minutes that we can get through actually.
Well, we have a motion and a second on the floor.
That's my discussion.
With your discussion, other discussion, Roberta.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I only looked at 3 of them myself, 3 of the special meeting minutes. I have not looked at the regular meeting minutes yet. Again, it's a lot of data, and I would like to correspond them back and forth through the audio and the YouTube and make sure we're good.
Any other discussion? We have a motion on the floor to postpone item number 3 to a later meeting. We have a second. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? 2. All right, so,
Or who was the second one?
That was the second.
it's going very well so far. Mayor's announcements. I just have two announcements. First of all,
Point of order,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Mayor. We haven't officially,
I'm sorry.
Adopted the-
Correct. Thank you. All right, let's put
I
a
look
motion.
to adopt the agenda as amended.
Okay, thanks. Second from George. Any discussion on the motion to adopt as amended? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? 7-0, thank you. Okay. Public comment. Nan?
All right, start with Wayne Bishop on item 5E2.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to speak in favor of this portion of this trail project that's proposed that the people are here tonight to hear about. And I just wanted to give a little history that in 2015, Parks and Rec brought the project forward, and then Mayor Vaughn tasked me with doing my research to do the project. And I did that, and anyway, I have that, and I want to turn this over to the recorder for record, so you can scan or have this.
Watch your hands.
And the other thing is, you know, we did a full-blown presentation for the thing, and we had the mission statements, visions, guiding principles. And we had the landmarks commission, planning commission, and the project was going to be under the direction of the Parks and Rec Commission. So my message tonight is simply this: let's go ahead, let's get the project started, but for reasons of risk, liability, it's a town project, and work shoulder to shoulder with the Trail Alliance, but under the direction of the Parks and Rec Committee. So that's my comment this evening, and I thank you all for listening, and I'll put this over here for the recorder as well.
Thank you.
how long was that?
That was in 2015 that we brought all of that information forward, and it's all in the book.
Brett Ritter, writer.
I would also like to speak today in support of the Ridge Street Connector Trail. I did a little bit of work, not quite that much work, but it's still really support.
There's still time.
As a resident of Bolivar for 7 years, I run at least 8 miles a day, every weekday around Bolivar and Harper's Ferry. I live on the edge of the Bolivar Nature Park, and the gravel road to my house is an excellent access point to that park. For those of you who don't know, it's a small network of trails that are occasionally used by our locals, our resident deer families, and just once we saw a black bear. Having these trails is integral to instilling a love of nature in our 3 boys. Our 5-year-old calls the nature trails our woodsy woods, and it's his favorite place to walk our dog. The primary reason I never want to leave this town is because of the network of small residential trails we have. We're well connected, but tourists never use these trails. It gives us the benefit of miles of solitude while still living in a sought after location. Every day I can walk out my door and decide where I'm going to go from a multitude of choices. We're fortunate to have the Town Trail Alliance, so we'll put the work into organized volunteers to clear trails, clean up trash dumped long ago. And the Alliance is full of capable folks with years of experience building sustainable trails that prevent erosion, discreetly circumnavigate residents, and collaborate with NPS, DNR, and our community leaders. These trails provide enjoyment for everyone who lives here, and I'm here today to support their creation and maintenance. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Benjamin Buckley.
Good evening, council. Everyone here just took an oath or pledge when we pledged allegiance to the flag. I'm going to talk about the last 7 words. Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Indivisible means unable to be divided. Liberty means freedom, which means power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. Justice means fairness or equity. All means everyone, and is the sum of our country, our people. I have said this oath repeatedly since childhood and seldom think of the meaning. The discourse of past meetings has compelled me to think of our pledge. We are deeply divided and fear is rampant here in this town. So much so, the progress of the town is held at bay. There should be no fear as we are all citizens together, united, indivisible. All citizens should have equal voice, and if there is a vote, the majority will rule and work as a democracy should. If only one voice is subdued, then we will become a totalitarian dictatorship, and our fears will be realized. I don't believe there is one citizen who would agree to that. I wonder what would happen if the corporation of Harper's Ferry, if we did renege on this pledge that we took with the flag, if we renege, what would happen to us? Will the state of West Virginia revoke our status? If so, what will become of us? I hereby implore everyone, especially the council, to remember your oath. Thank you.
Thank you. Nina?
Carol Block.
Since 1970, with Harvard's Ferry. I'm speaking against the Ridge Trail and the project in general. I suggest we need an overview of this entire trails project, especially its inception. Ridge Street is limits and Hamlet knows under the intent and legitimizes a massive project that is not legitimate or needed in this area. A private volunteer group went directly to DNR, bypassing the town council and affected residents. The Travel and Town Alliance had a vision of crisscrossing connection trails throughout neighborhoods and woods. So DNR was told a big problems in the woods and that the trails followed Brad Nash's wishes. Neither is true. But the Alliance got an MOU for the trails and started right in saying they were only for the locals. That's doubtful in the age of social media. Local hikers have long enjoyed the natural trails since this is not suburbia. This is Wild West Virginia. In the 1980 conveyance papers between Brad Nash and the DNR, the word trails never appears as wildlife area and recreation. 20 years, Brad's great love was wildlife. DNR was designated his land Woodpecker Woods Wildlife Sanctuary. DNR does not own the land, it's public land, and it is subject to restrictions. Recreation to Brad meant that visitors could still walk into the Wildwood Woods from his farm, which was to be an education center on history and nature. Oversight is essential for any project. The Alliance reports monthly to DNR, does good work, but visits from DNR experts are rare. The Alliance volunteers, not all from West Virginia, are excellent trail builders. It does not follow that they are naturalists, ornithologists, or archaeologists. These are ancient historic woods. DNR does need monitoring to protect the woods, but that does not require widening or creating gentrified trails. Perhaps some from the Alliance could simply deal with invasive species and report problems. A DNR rep lives in Inwood, the Park Service is right here, and we have local government. Harper's Ferry residents are affected by the Trails Project. Government is for the health and welfare of its citizens. Living in a tourism area should not mean you sacrifice your privacy and your safety. This is a living community. It is not a commodity, neither is nature.
Thank you, Carol.
Submitting that for the record and the rules from DNR about wildlife areas.
Thank you.
Alexis Grant.
I think many of you already saw me talk about the Ridge Street Trail. And just one other piece that I wanted to get on the record today. Some opponents of our work have been spreading information about the trail and town lines that simply isn't true. As someone who has personally spent many Saturday mornings with my kids in the woods and alongside the road cleaning up trash left by others, it's hard to understand why someone would spread such hurtful lies about our work. We wanted to approach this thoughtfully, so we haven't loudly or publicly refuted these lies. But I want the council and our neighbors to know that you can trust us, both for this project and others. We did not, and nor would we ever intentionally build trails on anyone's property, and we certainly did not build a trail that has existed for more than a decade. Jacob spends hours navigating property lines to ensure we stay within public property, and we are so lucky to have someone like him who is knowledgeable and cares so much about getting it right. We had one situation for a project on state property where the state's boundary markers, which we follow, were incorrect. The property owner let us know, and we met them on their property, walked through it together, and came up with a solution we are all happy with. I'd love to see more disputes resolved this way in our town. If you have a question about trails, or there's a trail where it shouldn't be, reach out to us. We don't have purview over all the local trails, but we'll absolutely help when we can. We also have not removed any survey markers from anyone's property. Defacing private property is both against our character and counterproductive for our efforts. We too have been dealing with vandalism. Vandals have used knives to remove the blazes from our trails and pull down safety signs near dangerous hornets' nests. We share the frustration around the removal of survey markers, and we had no part in it. Finally, I'd like to say a big thank you to all the volunteers who have put hours into making our town a cleaner and more enjoyable place to live. In a small town like this, every volunteer truly makes a difference, and it might not always feel that way when harsh rumors are spread. I want you to know that we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Katie Thompson.
My name is Katie Popsick. I'm the owner of Bolivar Bread Bakery, in Little Rooms. And it's located at 914 Washington Street. It's a business that borders the public land that the trail will be built, and I wanted to comment in favor of the creation of the trail. We serve a lot of hikers and outdoor enthusiasts, and I feel personally that it would be great to have a trail that goes right by the back part of Bakery. But I'm also a resident of this community, and I love, like so many others here, all the little tiny trails that are less known. So I just love all the little nooks and crannies in this town. I'm always in favor of making the town more accessible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Christy Huddle.
First of all, I just want to let you know that I've lived here since 1990, and I hike a lot. I hike all the trails that they have made. I'm so thrilled with them. I used to do the deer trails that were behind my house, and now they're going to be they're actually turning into real trails, which is much safer. I'm kind of nervous tonight because our car got totaled on Cattail Run at 5 o'clock. And then we love that car. And anyway, I just want to say if there's any issues with people that are worried about people hiking getting too close to their property. The one of the trails comes very close to, will come very close to our property once they figure out a way to get across that stream. And we're looking so forward to having some people using those trails. I have walked from East Ridge to West Ridge more than once. And it would be real nice to have a trail that's actually safe to use there. It's beautiful woods, and if it can be done, it can be done. Anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. That's it?
Yeah.
Thank you. I have announcements. I have three. First of all, I want to commend Wayne. I probably more than anyone in this room know the amount of personal time that Wayne you spent on the Greenway project back in 2015, I think it was. We had several meetings on that. Wayne and I went to breakfast a couple times on that to discuss it. He was a true ambassador of the trail system, and I know Wayne, you spent a lot of time on that, and I want to thank you for that. That's number two, on the 340, the information that I am getting is that they are on schedule. And so, and everything seems to be going rather well. I've talked to a lot of businesses in Lower Town, and I'm not sure that there's too many of them that have missed a beat. It's maybe, every now and then, but I think that for the most part, the businesses are doing well. The town has been packed to the gills every weekend, probably since this thing began. So, and I think they're still making some tweaks on some of the signs. They're still looking at the traffic light in Bolivar. On 340, that's still somewhat of a problem. I know that they've tinkered with the red light going up and the red light going down, so they're going in opposite directions, so there may be some more tweaking done on that light, but I think for the most part, it's going smoothly. I've seen a tremendous decline in the number of tractor trailers that are not making a U-turn and then end up coming up down Washington Street and High Street, and I've seen a significant reduction in that. On a sadder note, for those of you that do not know, former Mayor Joe Anderson passed last week. Joe was a longtime resident of Harpers Ferry. He served on the Landmarks Commission. I don't know, Wayne, did he serve on planning too? Do you remember?
Yes,
I think he did.
he did.
And then he served as mayor for a term. And in fact, Joe's house is where Christian Petriconis now lives. Joe was a true ambassador of goodwill, and he was a remarkable individual. The ending was rather quick. And his husband, Renee, he is putting together, I believe, some remembrances on Joe. So we're going to put the his obit in the newsletter, and I learned so much about Joe just reading his obituary the other day. So I'm just saddened about that. Any community announcements? I know, Chris, you have one.
Yes, this is also kind of a shift in gears, but Mayor Bond, Recorder Armstrong, fellow council members and member of the public, I wish to recognize today as Indigenous Peoples' Day. Several years ago, the Corporation of Harpers Ferry became the first municipality in West Virginia to recognize this special day. And it is fitting that this town that sits on the ancestral land of the Monacan and other native people honors their heritage with a day of special commemoration. Although Harpers Ferry is mainly noted today for its 19th and early 20th century people and history, for centuries earlier, people of the Shawnee, Delaware, Tuscarora, and other tribes made this area their home. Many other tribes came here to hunt, fish, and trade. Like us, they were attracted to this beautiful site where rivers, trails, and ridges meet, offering beauty and bounty. Many of these indigenous people were killed by conflict and disease introduced during white settlement. Most of the rest were pushed west, eventually to reservations in Kansas and Oklahoma. A remnant remains in our region to this day. And today, I hope you'll join me in remembering all these people with thanks for their land and their legacy, from which we all benefit.
Thank you, Chris.
Yes, thank you, Chris.
Any community announcements from the community?
I guess the last thing on the trails is there was quite a bit of funding available for the trail, which may in fact still be available for. Yeah. And with that, I'll go get another load of paperwork.
Thanks, Glenn.
Hilltop announcements, Laurel is unable to be here, so I will read her note committee. The update on the Hilltop progress is that we have completed the second round of third-party review comments on the site plan. We anticipate the recommendation letter within the week and will be submitting a permit application to the West Virginia Department of Economic Development Office by the end of the month. All other construction documents are in third-party review. Looking forward to initiating the Hilltop Lower Town Trail design. We support the Ridge Street Connector Trail and foresee a trail system from Potomac Street to Bolivar Heights to improve connectivity of our trail systems and alleviate some pedestrian traffic on Washington Street. Thank you. Nina, any announcements or comments or updates from the reporter?
Just a reminder that I have open office hours in here from 9 to 11 on Mondays and Thursdays. So if you ever want to come in, you're looking for a document, or you just have any comments, more than happy to meet with anyone. Also, just trying to reach out to any committees or commissions that have meeting notes, agendas, any sort of documents that they want to provide. Alyssa and myself are working on organizing all the documents for the last 2 years, so we would love, oh, you're right there. We would love whatever anyone would be has available. You can drop it off in the mailbox if I'm not here, or for Alyssa's desk. She's here. We're also in the door as well. There's documents you want to provide. So that's it.
Thank you, Dean. Now we're gonna go to 7A. 7A reads discussion action regarding removal and replacement of Cobra headlight fixture on Fillmore Street. Who's got that?
That was my agenda item. Thank you very much, Mayor, and thank everyone for moving us to the front. And thank you folks for showing up this evening, those of you who came. This is an agenda item having to do with, you've seen one light pole, but actually it reaches out into our entire community. A brief word of context. If you love and appreciate the historic looking yellow dim lights we have with their historic type shade, radial shades. It's the work of a former mayor, Kip Stoll, in the late 1980s. Correct me if I get my early 90s. The power company came to the town and said, we want to replace all your lights with the modern Cobra head. And I see people who are here and I wasn't. I'm just going from the oral history. Kip bought these folks for 9 years. I bought and negotiated. We had help, I understand, from preservationists as far away as St. Louis, Missouri, who came and enabled us to spend a great deal of money on some more historic light fixtures that we have today. Go forward, and that it was the end of 9 years, and it became the national actually news. Go forward to 2021, and the power company approached us again about changing our streetlights. I talked to the, I believe I was on the planning commission at the time. I talked to their point man for the town, and he was very candid with me. He said, you know, we have a lot of customers. We have 6 million customers. That doesn't seem real to me, but 6 million customers take one kind of light bulb, and you guys take a special. We want to do away with that. And so somehow, and that still is in process. And I think like protecting democracy, protecting our lighting, it's going to be an ongoing matter. Somehow, one of those Cobra lights that we see in McDonald's or Walmart and such found its way on top of a light post on Fillmore Street by Pete Murphy's house. Now I asked the mayor if he authorized it, and I was asked an email. He said no, I didn't. The power company man said that a former council member authorized it. I asked that former council member at the landmark meeting. He's a member of landmark with me now, and he said no, I didn't authorize it. So it's a good question how it got there, but it's there, and it appears to me that it's the thin edge of the wedge, the foot in the door to them getting what they tried to do. Nothing from my math, 30 years ago, about that, 30 some years ago. And although it would seem like a trivial matter, I think we're going to take it down. One of our former council members has sequestered away some very historic lights. And so we got a good replacement for it. And I'd like to see the council discuss, move and discuss and get this done in an expeditious fashion. So if I may, I'd like to make a motion. And my motion is to remove the Cobra head LED lights located on Fillmore Street near vacant lot adjacent to 898 Fillmore Street and National Park Service area, parentheses, West Ida Street, and replace it with historical radial shaded street light fixture, parentheses, Harper's Ferry standard fixture, and from surplus fixtures stored at town hall. And that the work be performed and completed within 60 days from the date of this meeting.
I'll second that.
That was okay. It's kind of, make one suggestion, radio wavelength is the
Radio wave light. Okay,
That's the Harper's Ferry Center.
Yes.
I will replace shaded with word wave. Thank you.
I'd like to offer an amendment.
I think we need a second.
You got a second?
Yes.
Good, so.
To equip that light with the TCP 14 watt EV 17 bulb whose output is 1800 lumens at a color temperature of 2200 Kelvin. 2200 Kelvin. So, and that's the motion.
What?
Amendment, proposed amendment.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion on the amendment?
He'll give it to you. Nina.
Yes,
Here's what I'm thinking about.
He'll give it
Just, what the number?
yes, let me explain.
Explain, please.
So I worked under the last council with Christian to help persuade the power company that we do not want the Cobra headlights. And we continue to work with Barry Williams, who is the expert who helped Mayor Stoll way back when, was passionate about utility lighting and other public infrastructure. He's about it, he's a great expert. And the challenge this whole time has been finding an LED bulb that can perform to the same specs as our incandescent bulbs. And until about a year ago, the only ones that were available where they would work in the light, but it was like an interrogation beam. And then about a year ago, the
It had
company,
inadequate diffusion.
correct. And
Remember that.
about a year ago, TCP, this major bulb manufacturer, introduced a bulb that had greater diffusion at a lower Kelvin color temperature. It's more consistent with the performance of the incandescents. And then even more recently than that, and 4 of those are actually installed on Washington Street, and they were performing admirably. Since then, they've introduced a version that is an even lower level of lumens. So the ones that have been tested are at 2200 lumens. These are at 1800. So it's still diffuse, so it's soft. When you're walking, you'll be able to see the sidewalk, but it's not going to glare and basically mimic the performance of what was there before.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Discussion development, and I'll come back to you, George.
Thank you.
Yes, I support the amendment given by Storm because those bulbs are dark sky compliant.
Yes, they are.
We have 4 light fixtures in town that are dark sky compliant, so step forward. Thank you.
George?
Question, how did that light get up there? And I'm not trying to point fingers, but I would like to know if maybe somebody who put it up there could be disposed to paying to take it down. You know what I mean? Do you happen to know how it got there? Because
I didn't
are there,
Don't look at
you
me.
know, Christian said he doesn't know.
We'll move on, George. We'll try to find out from
Right.
Georgia, not Georgia Power.
I'm talking.
Georgia Power. We'll find out from who is
Potomac.
Potomac. How it got there, and if they put it up there, they can take it down.
Amen.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Chris, you had a discussion point, then Nina.
My only question, Storm, is if we have a specific bulb in our amendment. It sounds like there's already been 3 changes of technology and things disappear. Do we not want to straitjacket ourselves?
Well, I do know this bulb is available now, and at least right now, we're talking about this one fixture. It could be amended to be a range of lumens and color temperatures, but I don't know off the top of my head. And what the range would be to still be dark sky compliant.
Nina?
Right now, the motion implies that we have those bulbs and fixtures in storage. Do we have those bulbs currently in surplus here at town?
Not the bulb, we do have the fixtures.
So,
Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment? 7-0. Now go to the main amendment. We have to the main motion. We have a motion. We have a second on the floor. Any further discussion on the main motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the main motion?
Believe you have a second motion to make.
Sorry, who was the second on the main motion?
Okay, we're going to.
Oh, you're right.
But you have another motion that you want
Well,
to- I think we need to do that.
okay, a motion to recommend that the Business and Finance Committee receive estimates and appropriate funds to work, so work can be completed within 60 days to review that.
That's it.
Okay, what was the motion, George?
The motion was to motion to recommend that the business and finance community receive estimates and approve appropriate funds, so work can be completed within 60 days of the date of this meeting.
I don't have that on the agenda.
It is, I'm sorry, it's
Oh.
space down below. It's related. It's
Okay.
related, to be sure.
Is there a second on the motion? We have a second from Roberta, discussion on the motion.
Yeah, the only thing, like, we can't guarantee, as it involves the electric company, but as worded, I think it's okay. Like, it's certainly.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion? There we go. Good way to see church.
Well,
Unbelievable.
all the best continues.
All right, so we've stricken 5D2 from there. And now Zach,
Yes.
I now go to
5D2. Nope.
number 4.
Right. So this is discussion and action regarding the Ridge Street Trail Connect footpath. The short version, I think we've all seen the presentation from Trail and Town Line a few times. On, I believe it was September 19th. The planning commission had both a special meeting and a regular meeting. The special meeting had the planning commission, or most of the planning commission, walk the proposed trail route with Trail in Town. And then during the regular meeting, there was a lengthy discussion of the pros and cons of developing the trail. In short, the Trail and Town Alliance had contacted adjacent property owners and gotten letters of approval from most. I believe you have those, they were emailed to us for the record. And we've all seen a number of letters of support come in, both virtually and support here in person today. And so in order to both support this, I mean, it's rare that we get something that comes before us that say both previous Mayor Wayne Bishop and the folks in Hilltop have both support. So this is a pretty high-ranging area of support. I prepared a motion with a few provisions that I think will get this moving and also address some of the minor concerns that have been voiced. So I move that in accordance with the previously established memorandum of understanding with the Trail and Town Alliance, the town council approves the construction of a footpath along the designated route on Ridge and Zachary Taylor Paper Streets by Trail and Town Alliance, provided that, and there are 4 provisions. 1, both the town and the Town and Trail Alliance continue to work with citizens who own property adjacent to the project to ensure that satisfactory barriers or signs are put in place to prevent pedestrians from inadvertently trespassing onto private property. Provision 2, that as part of the trail construction project, easily identifiable trail markers or trail blazes are properly installed along the trail to clearly delineate the walking path route. 3, that any trailhead markers or signs be approved by both the Planning Commission and Parks and Rec Commission before being placed at either entrance to the footpath. And 4, based on comments from tonight, that Parks and Rec Commission regularly review the progress of the trail development project. I have that in writing if you want that for the record.
There's second on the motion.
A second.
Second from George, discussion on the motion. One question, first Storm, then Roberta.
So can you reread the part about where the trail is in the description?
Yes, actually, there's a map. It may not be the most up-to-date map, but there's a map here in the center of the table if you want to see it. It's it is.
Sorry, I'm familiar with the trail, but I heard along the paper streets, so
Yeah.
it's making sure it's not restricted just to the parts that are on.
This is correct. It travels from the park here at Franklin and Washington Street. That's one of the entrances. There's also another entrance on West Ridge that sort of form a Y shape. It then travels along the Ridge Paper Street that connects east and West Ridge. Then along town-owned property along there as well. So it's both
the paper street and town-owned property between Ridge Paper and Washington.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that the motion is not restricting it to the paper
That's
streets.
a good question. I can amend the motion if we want to be clear on that.
Yeah,
If your second accepts the alteration, we don't need a motion, just, okay, just say how you're gonna change it. That would then change it to say, we approve the construction of the footpath along the designated route on Ridge, Zachary Taylor, Paper Streets and town property by the Town and Trail Alliance.
so who was the second?
And it's so approved, yes.
Any other discussion? Verda, oh, you had your.
Yes, I do. I was waiting for you to bring that again. All right, thank you, Mayor. I do have about 8 letters emailed to me from various people and residents of Bolivar and both Harpers Ferry. I have not confirmed that all of them are residents or adjacent or abutting the adjoining property. In sake of time, I will not read them. I truly respect your sending them to all of us, but I leave them here and I enter them officially into the record and attach the meeting minutes. So thank all of you for responding. I do have comments for myself, and if you'd like to pass that down, and I'd like to read some comments for myself into the record. I did present these similar comments to our planning commission meeting. And what I'll do is I'll just say, I cannot support the Ridge Street Connector Trail as it has been presented to date by the Town and Trails Organization to Town Council and the Planning Commission for the following. And I truly am glad that this book is here, and I'm glad, and I hope this book stays here, and that all of us have the opportunity to look at it. I hope it will remain in Nina's office and Nina's possession, recorder's possession, so we can all look at it. But item 1, Town Council has not received written confirmation of approval from all residents and or property owners who abut or adjoin the proposed trail areas. Town Council specifically requested written documents to be presented prior to any approval. Item number 2, for the current Harpers Ferry comprehensive plan, the following goals, policies, and objectives have not been met or addressed. Therefore, the proposed project is not consistent with the current comprehensive plan for the following reasons. Section 3, environmental resources and constraints. Stream valley protection, improving water quality. See page 7 attached. And again, I have copies up here if anyone wants to look at what I'm reading. The steep sided stream valleys in Harpers Ferry make them particularly vulnerable to soil erosion if the forest cover is disturbed, quote unquote. Best management practices typically call for a minimum of 100 foot of buffer from a stream edge and a minimum of a 25-foot buffer from the top of a stream bank, quote unquote. It also is inconsistent with goal section 3, paren A, objectives 1A, 1B, 1D, and 4. And again, I have the pages attached. It also is consistent with goal section 4, paren D, objective 3. Again, the goal and information is attached. Item number 3, information I presented at Planning Commission meeting for consideration. 1, the abundance of trails in our tri-state area and region within a short drive from Harpers Ferry, literally a 5 to 10 minute drive. According to the alltrails.com website, there are over 255 miles of existing trails. This figure does not include Nash Farm or Woodpecker Woods, which is currently under progress. See attached documents that I have attached from those from that website. Item number 4, organization. Again, the trail organization has stated they do not need a survey. I think this would be in poor judgment by the town and the organization to not have property and properties surveyed. This lays the ground for legal disputes over boundaries and trespassing, lays ground for legal disputes over unsafe and unrealized condition, lays ground for poor and improper planning to not know where erosion control may be more adverse if the steep slopes are properly designed, and thereby opening town and organization, again, the trail organization, up for adverse erosion to properties abutting an adjoining trail and further legal disputes due to property damage and injury claims. However, I could support this project if all of the following conditions are made and met, and it appears that Zach has put some of these same thoughts into the record tonight. So item number 1. The town council has received all written confirmation of approval from all residents and or property owners who abut and adjoin the proposed trail areas. Item number 2, the project is required to submit to town for a permit and provide all required documentation, including a signed and sealed survey by a licensed surveyor and civil engineer showing the before conditions of all areas and boundaries associated with the project and all documents associated with proposed improvements for the project. Each set of these documents to show existing and proposed grading. And I say this is important because some of that grading is 45-degree slope or greater than 25% to a 45-degree slope. Show the top of the bank, show the wetlands, if any, show the buffers required for any agencies, i.e. Environmental Protection Agency, Wetlands Protection, DNR, whoever. Buffers required for town ordinances, water runoff directions, stream bed, all the trees, and any historical features, etc. Cross sections and details of trail design and proposed erosion control and signage proposed. Maybe it's all in that book right there. Item number 3, project is placed under the Parks and Recreation Committee to review and coordinate items needed for submittal for permit. Coordinate project with Planning Commission so that it is vetted to be consistent with the comprehensive plan and applicable town ordinances. Once the permit is approved and issued, the Parks and Recreation Committee shall work with the OCO to coordinate, to oversee, we talked about oversight, somebody talked about oversight out there. Development of project complies with approved plans. The Parks and Recreation Committee oversees and coordinates with the trail organization for lifetime maintenance. Maintenance was also an item brought on tonight by the public. So that the organization and the town works together on maintenance and erosion control. Item number 4, which I think is really key. The trail organization works with the town and the town attorney to form a hold harmless agreement. And it is signed by all vested parties. That is key. And I almost wouldn't mind adding that to your conditions as one of the most important items as part of your conditions as that whole harmless agreement.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Chris?
Yes, I'm wondering why you're saying that written feedback from the neighbors was not received. We've all seen that.
I think what it was is neighbors, but I think we specifically asked that each person whose property abuts the proposed trail was key, that we would need to make sure that, because I've heard from some of those residents and voters and people that they were against this because they were going to lose their privacy, they were worried about security, and they were worried about security, privacy, security, and trash, and who was going to be using the trail? Was it going to be tourists or was it going to be only residents? So I think we discussed this in one of our first meetings that we wanted the Trail and Town Committee organization to prepare a letter to speak with all those residents abutting the trail, get a letter signed by them that says yes or no.
Could Lexi please address that? She's given us feedback from every abutting neighbor,
Yeah,
neighbor except for one.
Is that cool? Actually, I've talked to all the neighbors, every single neighbor that goes around. I can report, there was one person who expressed concern or no, who's on the council. We had 7 yeses from residents and tenants who border the land. 4 different residences, either I could not get in touch with or they did not respond. Only one of them actually has someone living in the property. The other ones are just don't have anything on the land. And then that's it. Actually, I have a bunch of properties here who are nearby who also say yes. But if you want to look at it, it's like each one is.
That's okay.
But the key is a written
And I have not finished my comments. And Roberta, your reading of the comprehensive plan must be very selective.
I include the pages, sir.
If you all will notice on page 7, the second page that she gives us, she's highlighted everything except the trail. The trail is mentioned throughout the 2013 comprehensive plan. It is given as a top priority in the list of goals. That's my second point.
I'm sorry.
My third point is We discussed at the planning commission, the option of having a survey. If a survey is done, it will have to be the town that does it. Trail in Town does not have the money for it. And, when we sat in that meeting, we had nearly every abutting neighbor there. And no need for a survey was expressed at that point in time. I can tell you from personal experience that Jacob is not a professional surveyor, but he actually is very, very skilled with the boundaries. He has discovered some encroachments, as you know, on town property that he's alerted us to. So, but again, if the town chooses to do a survey, the town can come up with that project. And the final thing I wanted to say on signage, in the MOU with Trail in Town that the town has, signage is just left up to the town, so that will all be a town decision.
Nina first, then Roberta, then George, then Zach. Okay, so we're gonna do this. In fact, everybody's got their hand up, so we're gonna start on that end. We're gonna work all the way around here, and then, once we're finished, I hope we have concluded discussions so we can go to a vote. Okay, council? All right, Nina, you got it now.
So, I guess I have sort of 2 points. One thing was just, I don't have a full understanding of our insurance as far as liability is concerned, and if cleaning up the trails would in any way impact our liability as far as our insurance coverage. So, that's definitely something that I have some concerns about. If we are cleaning up the trail and it seems as some sort of invitation, does that change as far as our insurance policy is concerned, what our liability is? And I don't know if anyone has an answer for that. I just want to make sure that we are covered if someone slips and falls. We have a full coverage on that, so that is a concern of mine. And then the other one is, I'm not sure if Town Trail would be open to this, but I do think some sort of open house might be really nice, where we can see some photos of the proposed trail, some bigger maps, so we can fully understand. I think that would probably be something open to the community, similar to what we did with the comprehensive plan. I thought that was a really good way to sort of understand what the project is about. And I think that might be really beneficial for everyone if there was some sort of night where they could come and see more of this documentation outside of a formal meeting setting, and more of a those are my 2 requests.
Thank you, Nina. I'm gonna ask, Roberta, could you ask Debbie to step in here for a minute? Debbie oversees the town's liability insurance. Debbie, did you hear the Nina's comment?
So, as general commercial liability insurance, we have $1 million policy on any property that we own. And there's an excess rider beyond that, could it be required. And so just for liability purposes, that should cover.
Will we have to report to the insurance company work that was done on trails?
I mean, it would certainly be prudent to do so, but as long as it is our property and it is deeded as such, then it is covered.
Thank you. Now, Roberta.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. And rebuttal to Chris. Chris, I think the comprehensive plan, I'm sorry, I didn't copy that because it was misquoted at the planning commission. The item, and I will get that to Nina to put into the record, but that says the Ridge Street Stream Valley preservation shall be a priority, not the Ridge Street Trail connector should be a priority. It's the preservation of the Ridge Street Stream Valley. So that's where you're at. That's where this trail is going through. And that was a priority in the comprehensive plan. So I just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Storm.
First, let's say I do appreciate the concerns about the trails of someone whose property is probably going to be impacted by this sort of thing. And I feel that what Zach put forth, I think hits it pretty well about what the real concerns are. But at its heart, I feel like this project in particular is a public good. I think it's a light footprint. I've walked it twice with the group. It's a very light touch. If it were something that were much grander and greater, I did look at the comprehensive plan. And do feel it comports with the comprehensive plan. As far as disturbing of the stream valley, my read on it is that has to do more with if you are developing lots where you're going to have a large amount of erosion versus a modest clearing of what is essentially a deer trail. And I think ultimately it is for us in the community. And it's one of the primary reasons that I am here and I enjoy being with nature, in nature. Especially when there are a lot of tourists around on much more traveled trails. This one's for us. So that's how I feel about it.
Thank you, George.
Thank you. I don't think that Roberta's comments are challenging the existence of the trail, whether or not to have the trail. It's more focusing on how it's to be done in the process. And that's not easy for everybody to get behind a complicated process argument. But I think maybe what we got at the beginning of this meeting speaks volumes, pardon the pun, to what our process should look like. If that amount of literature was generated by this project, then the kind of literature, the kind of information currently generated, I think needs to come up to speed. That's not the right expression, but you know what I mean. It needs to have these concerns looked at, and probably the answers are in there. I think we've got more process to go forward. I think this council ought to say, let's move forward, but let's prescribe a plan in which we perhaps work with Parks and Rec to move forward. The guy who gave us that there is on Parks and Rec. And we could get answers to these concerns. We could tie all these three things together if we move forward without approval yet. I also want to say that, once again, I don't think anybody at this table is challenging the benefit of this trail. I don't think anybody. But it's a question of how we get there and doing it right. It may be a low impact item, but on the other hand, it is pretty darn steep there. And lastly, my comment is, Roberta makes a point that we get all approval of all persons. I was head of an HOA for 15 years, and we had projects in which we had to meet certain legal barriers of approval from property owners. And there was no such a thing as, I'm sorry, there are a few of them that we couldn't reach. That didn't cut it. Our attorneys were very steadfast with the fact that you had to get all the property owners to put ink on paper. And that was that. I'd like to recognize Carol Gallant for just a second with the permission of the mayor here.
We need to move on with the discussion.
I know, but given that we had a recognition of another audience member.
Please.
She has had her public comment.
And so had the other person. I'm looking at equity here.
And the trail people.
Very briefly, Carol.
Very conscientious. I do oppose the trails because I live 10 towns down the road, but I just want to make this point. There's no mention of wildlife. Brad Nash generously gave his land, and I knew him, and we talked about it for wildlife preservation. It was not for tourism or to invite people into the woods. He didn't have any objection to walking, nor do I. My land has been affected. And I bought it for conservation just recently. The new markers have been doubled. So I don't think it's a great thing to entice people into the woods, but mainly it's the wildlife. That was the gift. The gift was for a wildlife sanctuary. It did not say, let's build trails for ladies.
Thank you very much, Carol.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, go back to you.
I did.
Clarification, Brad Nash never owned this stretch that we were talking about. This is
I understand. I'm not overall project.
I'm going to have a dialogue back and forth. Chris, make your discussion.
that's my
Okay,
clarification.
thank you. Zach?
3 quick points, that this is coming back from the planning commission as a majority suggested that this be adopted, and the guiding document the planning commission creates is the comprehensive plan. Very quickly, a section from the previous 2013 comprehensive plan goal for objective 3 is to preserve paper streets so they're not too steep, that are too steep or are not needed to access existing developable lots to use as trailways and mini parks, especially paper streets. that provide pedestrian connections and access to stream valleys and views of the rivers and mountains. That is from the comprehensive plan. I feel like this falls directly within that. The second point is that the status of this area, the town lots and the paper street before Trail and Town Alliance began their surveying work was not good condition. They've done a lot of work already to remove a lot of trash and debris that was left down there over years. And so I feel that this project going forward is not only a benefit to people of the town to be able to access things, but it helps with the stewardship of this particular lot that has fallen by the wayside in the past. And then lastly, just the point is that this is already a public right of way. We do have walking paths on other public rights of way in town, including paper streets. The Henry Clay Paper Street Trail exists, the Columbia Paper Street Trail did exist. And so I feel that insurance wise, we're already in the boat in other places in town, and this would follow suit.
Storm, we've already had an opportunity.
I was just gonna ask if you and Zach would be open to the Trailmaker to speak to that.
I think we're gonna, is any other discussion on this? All right, we have a motion, we have a second on the floor, we're going through some very considerable, insightful discussion. Now we're going to put to a vote. All those in favor of the motion?
Lester, can you have the motion read again?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
You read your motion.
I'll try and get through it quick. I move that in accordance with the previously established memorandum of understanding with Trail and Town Alliance, the town council approves the construction of a footpath along the designated route on Ridge Paper Street, Zachary Taylor Paper Street, and town property by the Trail and Town Alliance, provided that, one, both the town and the Trail and Town Alliance continue to work with citizens who own property adjacent to the project to ensure that satisfactory barriers and or signs are put in place to prevent pedestrians from inadvertently trespassing onto private property. Two, that as part of the trail construction project, easily identifiable trail markers or trailblazers are properly installed along the trail to clearly delineate the walking path route. Three, that any trailhead markers or signs be approved by both the Planning Commission and Parks and Rec Commission prior to being placed at either entrance to the footpath. And four, that Parks and Rec Commission regularly review the progress of the trail development project.
Thank you, Zach. Motion has been read into the record and clarified. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Motion carries. 5 opposed.
I'm raising.
Pardon, George?
Continue.
No.
What did, can you recall the vote, please? Can I have a roll call vote?
Okay.
Did you vote for?
I'm sorry, I raised my hand out of turn. I had a thought in my head. I was just
We're going to a roll call.
Okay. Maybe call the roll, starting to your right.
All right, Roberta McCray. Nay. Stormy DeSanto,
Yes.
George Owens,
abstaining.
Chris Craig,
Yes.
Zach Morris,
Yes.
and myself, yes. And Greg Vaughn.
Yes.
Let the record reflect 5 ayes, 1 nay, 1 abstain.
Okay. Roberta, would you kindly ask Debbie to step in for the, I think we're at the church.
We do, yes.
Thanks.
Okay.
You know, you want to enter a copy of the vote?
I have the camera set.
Apparently, right. We saw that.
Yes.
And we pulled up behind the Apple State of the street. Could see, you know, the return.
Okay, if you don't want to hear the financial reports,
No, really boring.
Wasn't still in
Alright, so, you ready?
go ahead.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Council. Financial report time this evening or the closing of August 2023, which is 16.7% of your fiscal year. General fund, our budget numbers represent revision 1 for fiscal 24. Therefore, the parent board balance is $1,359,000, making our targeted operating income $1,076,000. Income as of August 31, $225,000, represents about 21% of our anticipated in the year. And our expenses are about 17%. There are some areas involving payroll that are a little bit skewed because in that particular 2-month cycle, there were 5 payroll periods, so kind of it's a little off right there, but I've checked and it does even out in the following month. For waterworks, the overall revenue received through August is showing at 16.4% with water receipts at about 18%. Overall operating income is 17.4%. Again, these numbers with our carrying 5 payroll periods, so they are a little skewed in some areas. Plant chemicals, as you know, and have been made aware of, is climbing faster than we anticipated due to the extra chemicals required to process. So we're going to resource water. So we'll be revising the water budget later in this month and as well as the general fund. Any questions?
We generally characterize things as on track.
So, yeah, on track, just watching that water, those chemicals are gonna, if we can get back elsewhere, that's gonna make a big impact for us.
I move to approve the financial reports for August 2023.
And a second, second, Chris, discussion on a motion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve. 7-0. Thank you. Next.
I or the purchase of capital. I'm thinking about, but any question about what we saw, you want to look at those more. Yeah, there's 3. Is that it?
Greg has it if you need it.
Who?
Greg should have a copy of it if
He
you.
has a report, but he's not. Last month, we approved the threshold during your DSC, you approved threshold to be $1,000. Anyway, that's across the board and topic. Okay, so, anybody want to look at the 3 that we have up for, on J?
Cox Holiday, Wynn Dobson and Foreman.
And Carl. And the new threshold is $1,000. That's correct, is that right, for anything that's not covered in the rest of the threshold parameters.
Okay, so these 3 fall under the $1,000 limit.
They're over $1,000.
Things come to us if they're
So they fall under the $1,000 limit for.
They're over the $1,000 threshold, that's why you're reviewing them, yes.
because they're more than $1,000.
She means under the purview of.
Thank you, my English teacher.
I move to approve the invoices and purchases over the purchasing threshold.
Second on the motion to approve, second from Chris, discussion on the motion to approve. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve. 7-0 opposed, 1, 6-1. Okay, thank you, Debbie. Chief. Chief, you're the
I give you the report for September 2023. We had 3 accidents, 0 fallouts, 6 assists, 178 citations, and 189 calls for service, which are very expensive. I continue to meet the mayor, and addressing concerns and issues and moving with the department in a forward direction, and I appreciate his time and effort in helping me move those things forward. Any questions, concerns?
No.
Questions on the chief, thank you, chief, for preparing the report, so a couple questions, so, when you say I see theft down here too. Can you explain those a little bit?
Harper's Ferry stole 2 people's hearts.
Yeah.
Good answer.
I mean, there was a report of 2 thefts, what they were exactly, I didn't tell you exactly, but we had a duck, that was reported against you.
Were they in the boundaries of the corporation or were they in the county?
They were probably in the boundaries of the corporation, if they're my report.
Okay, and, Talk to me about suspicious vehicle.
Suspicious vehicles, anyone that reports a suspicious vehicle on a side street or something without an ordinary about vehicle in a particular area. We're called in to check on that and see what they're doing in that particular area.
And they're just asked to move on or.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, sir. And then suspicious person.
So
That-
same thing.
Do you think that suspicious person resulted in the,
I can't.
Okay. okay, all right.
Thank you, Chief.
Oh, just one question. So number of directed patrols, is that business as usual?
So that's business as usual. We just, trying to let you know that we're patrolling certain streets and being seen on those streets and, if you've any concern. If someone has an issue of speeding, and we're saying, hey, we're sitting there on that street. We're checking and see about that location.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Got the OCO report, if any of you have issues, I will bring them to the attention of the OCO.
Going, let's bring it to the attention of the OCO. Because I do have some issues on his report that might be incorrect.
I'm sorry?
I have some issues on his report that might be incorrect, so you'd rather have me bring them up to
Yeah,
the OCO? Okay.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
All right.
Thank you, Brother.
Superintendent. We're good to have you again.
It's the best part.
At the light of the clock.
Best part.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, team members of council, it's nice to see you again too. Couple updates from Harpers Ferry National Historical Park. First, the superintendent search continues. We have not heard. I am still the acting superintendent, so I will be with you until November 4th, and then my temporary duty is over. At such time, I believe Chief Ranger Levens will very likely be the park manager in the interim until the permanent superintendent is announced.
Do you have a BQ list on that, Superintendent?
I do not. I am not the hiring manager, my boss does. I can tell you, however, that the new superintendent of the Appalachian Trail has been named. It's going to be Ed Clark. Ed was the former superintendent of Manassas. He's been superintendent of Gettysburg. He's worked most recently with our Pacific West region, and now he is back here to take up the reins of the Appalachian Trail. So he will be at the Camp Hill office here in a couple weeks. One superintendent now. A couple things. The train station, this is in no particular order. I do apologize. My notes are not as tidy as I would like. I had them all typed up for you, and then when I got here, I couldn't get any internet to bring them back up. So train station, we do have a repair rehab project at the train station coming up. From the dates of October 30th to November 2nd, there's going to be a large lift there. We need to get up above the train station, take a look at the roof, and then do some inspections. We're going to need to put the lift there. It's going to take up 3 parking spots, and we're going to be moving it throughout that week. And so we've got about 3 to 13 parking spots that will be impacted during that time at the train station. US 340 weekly updates, as I mentioned last month. The park is having weekly meetings with Triton, the contractor. I've been sending updates to the mayor and Reporter Armstrong after the fact. So hopefully those are helpful notes to everyone. Couple other things. Marmion Road, the project, as you saw, the scaffolding has come down. Now they're going, the Historic Preservation Training Center crews are going to move to the public way side of the building, so just be aware that there may be some traffic snarling in that area. Hopefully not, but just be aware there will be work crews in that along public way. Burton's Jewelry Shop project has started. I am very happy to report that, Mr. Mayor. John Brown Museum Buildings, we do have another project coming up, which is going to start probably at the end of this month. And that's going to be again, a host of different repair and rehabilitation projects related to that. We do expect the potential for some impacts on Shenandoah Street there, right in front, some traffic issues right there. We will manage that, and we'll make sure the rangers have that well laid out. But I do expect that to be in place during Old Time Christmas as well. Okay, just be aware of that.
speaking of old time Christmas, we have received, the park has received a request from the Merchants Association. We are going to respond. They had a number of things they were asking us for. And we were working on that. We should be able to respond to that this week. Finally, National Public Lands Day, which had been scheduled last month, washed out. It was the big rain that we had, and so we canceled it. We're going to try again on October 21st. Again, the goal of this volunteer project is to try to get at some of that English ivy on Shenandoah Street. So again, happy to have volunteers from the town if you're interested in joining us for that. And that is the conclusion of my report.
Sure.
Just curious, are you seeing, how's the parking lot with the Route 340 closure and volumes to the park?
A little bit less, but still fairly active. I mean, what's happening is that the smaller lots are pulling up later in the day. Normally, the train station fills up by 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm sure you're aware. River access usually as well. And so it's just it takes a little later into the day to fill them up. But yeah, it's certainly having an impact. But it's not awful.
Thank you.
Yes.
You, George?
Thank you for taking the paint off Stafford Kelly Street. Good job.
I will let maintenance know.
Chris?
Has there been any movement or have you heard anything new about the accessibility issue for the underpass at the train station?
Nothing new, you mean from CSX? Or
Amtrak?
no, no, we have not. We have not been able to get CSX to answer any of our communication.
Wow.
However, we are actively working on getting you all a draft and a memorandum of understanding about the access. So we are working on that.
Thank you.
Superintendent, one thing when you start your project on Shenandoah Street with Ryan Levens providing, if Ryan needs any assistance, make sure he reaches out to Chief Brown. So that any kind of traffic or pedestrian control, if he needs some help.
We will coordinate with Chief Brown.
I just volunteered to Chief, so imagine it.
Is there any update? I think you mentioned a memorandum of understanding for the train station, but at one point we had chatted about understanding for the accessibility for the point.
I'm sorry, that is what I'm.
Okay.
Yeah. The underpass. Okay, yes, right. Thank you.
Storm and then revert.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead. I really don't.
While we were speaking about railroad station, have you heard anything, there was an effort to upgrade the station platforms, I think in 2020 from the FRA. Have you heard anything in forever?
Nothing official.
Great, thank you.
Revert.
I didn't really have my hand up, but other one comment is, if there's, reports coming from National Park that's coming to you and Nina, can you share that? with
Sure.
us? That'd be great, thank you.
Anything else for the superintendent? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Storm, I believe we have the next.
Yes, so Budget and Finance Committee, we had our monthly meeting. I submitted a full report. I'm just gonna highlight a couple of things, but if anybody has questions about items from the report, I'm happy to talk to them. And there are a few items on that are covered under individual agenda items here. So one, just an update on the water meter upgrade and financing. The work continues, prepare that bid for upgrading the large meters in the service area. And we're not going to do this now, but we're going to need to work out a special meeting to put that out to bid. And that's going to be in October. So look for a doodle poll about that. And we'll also probably tack on to that. Adjusting the language in how we do our bid platforms. To not specify a specific platform, but to say the widest appropriate platform. That way, we're not obligated to use a particular platform if it's not needed. If you are looking at the report, jumping down to number 5, Water Development Authority funded water distribution project. This is the meters relate to that. Progress continues on locking down the $2.5 million Water Development Authority grant to upgrade parts of the distribution system. Just know that there are a lot of gears running with that at the same time, and this large meter project is key to that. And then, the financial officer already mentioned it about the water plant chemical expenses, so long as we're gulping down Potomac River water. It requires use of more of a thing called Delcat, which takes things out of solution and helps make the water safer. It's expensive to use that compared to not using it. So hopefully, Elk Run those levels will come back up. And it may require a budget revision if it persists for a longer time. So that's all I have from the reports. Any questions on items that aren't on the agenda that I didn't cover?
Go ahead, Steve.
All right. So this is item D1, discussion and action regarding the auditor for the SAO mandated fiscal year 23 audit. So we met on October 6th and followed the SAO mandated process for selecting an auditor. In order to conduct this audit, we must have conducted every year. We did follow that process, and the result was I would like to move to recommend that Perry and Associates CPAs be selected as the fiscal year 23 auditor, and that up to $12,000 be allocated for payment upon receipt of required documentation.
Second on the motion, second from Chris. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? Thank you.
Next item, discussion and action regarding police department replacement radio quote. So this quote came back between when we first started looking at this, and this is to upgrade our very old radios to dual use so they can operate both by radio frequency and Wi-Fi. They got much more expensive. Financial officer was able to work it out, so we will be able to get 6 radios within around the budget that had been set for it. So I would like to move to spend up to $39,500 to purchase 6 dual-use radios for the Harpers Ferry Police Department from Motorola. And that's the end of the motion.
Second on the motion, second from George. Discussion on the motion. Roberta?
Quick question, so the $39,500 was the same number that was previously approved, I believe, by the previous council, right? Is that- Or is it higher? It's higher than.
It may be a little higher,
Yeah, I don't know.
not off the top of my head.
About 2,000.
All right, thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Thank you. Thanks, Norm.
Yeah, thank you, Deb. Discussion and action regarding de-icing risk assessment. So I believe it was at the last meeting that we awarded the snow removal contract and opted for the alternate de-icing agent, which is Eckermelt 2. And there was as part of the motion that we needed to conduct a risk assessment. So Budget and Finance conducted the risk assessment, and we received the data safety sheet, and I believe this was sent around for the Eckermelt 2 products.
Yeah, it's in the ones that I copied for you for today.
And then we devised a risk assessment process, and I included that. I'm happy to, but I'm not going to walk through the whole thing. And we discussed what the dimensions were for risk, and we each independently gave our risk rank, and these were compiled. And we looked at both the direct risks of using the product, and we also looked at the risks of not using any de-icing agent. And we concluded that far and away, there was very little risk to using the contractor's premium product, and a great risk to not using any product at all, and leaving the roads in potentially ice condition. So I moved to approve contractor use of the Eckermelt 2 de-icing agent. And request that the contractor use a brining method when possible, and request that the contractor ensure that the agents and its packaging are handled properly.
Second from Chris. Discussion on the motion, Roberta?
Yeah, I'm looking at your page, then I'm just receiving this right now, so I haven't looked at it. So I'm going to your page 2, risk assessment de-icing. And using the de-icing agent is, under column number 1. Is that the extra melt tube product you're going to use?
It is.
Okay, so it's gonna kill the wildlife, it's gonna cause water damage, possibly downstream and affect. Water is gonna be a potential ingestion of skin hazard to people and potential damage to the sidewalks and streets, so. I don't think this is a good product, and I think we asked for the risk assessment to try to find a product that didn't harm water, PFS content, wildlife, et cetera, et cetera. So you're telling us in this document tonight that it could damage and kill wildlife. The runoff of the downstream to the water quality will be affected. The people will have a potential ingestion and skin hazards, and the streets and sidewalks in our beautiful town could have potential damages to their surfaces.
That is not what this sheet says.
Okay.
So these are the dimensions that we said, what are all the possible risks for using this de-icing agent for anyone? And then below are the risks for not using one. So this is the blank form that we used.
Okay.
What we did next is each of us gave a 1 to 5 rank for the severity of harm and a 1 to 5 rank of likelihood of harm.
Okay,
And
where's
then
that paper?
I included that.
Okay.
Well,
Second, yeah,
that's the matrix with the numbers,
that's this.
correct? So on this sheet,
Okay, now see this.
I will have you read it.
Okay.
So the top is the risk assessment for the de-icing agent.
Mhm.
So here it matches up with the questions.
Mhm.
And then there's a column for each of us, and these are our actual results from our independent rankings. And then, so that's for severity of risk under the blue.
5 is being the worst severity.
Yes, the greatest risk would be 5. And then likelihood of harm. And then I used a method where you multiply the severity by the likelihood and then average our 3 results, which will give you a cumulative risk level. So it's a way that you can cross compare the risk of this de-icing agent against not using any de-icing agent.
Okay, and how did you determine the likelihood? What basis did you use for that? Did
So-
you get the manufacturers? What did Steve call that? The
Yeah,
manufacturers
we reviewed that.
information?
It's there too.
Yes, that's the safety data sheet.
Okay.
We use that. We also conducted due diligence on a number of dimensions. Spent an hour or 2 researching both the law as well as trade publications, state agencies and others to see what other municipalities are doing. I'll say overall, and that's what you can see. That's a lot of where these questions came from. And I asked, well, are there places that don't use de-icing agents? And the answer is no. And the reason I put the extra things into the motion is that there is a movement to use less salt because there are harms. And the answer to that is brining. In Wisconsin, they use cheese curd liquid. We don't have that. So there are ways you can reduce, and we had heard that Cornerstone may be able to do that to some degree. So of course, there's not zero risk. It's almost nothing that's zero risk. But in our judgment, after looking at the materials, after discussing the dimensions, thinking it over, when you look at the risk, it's negligible across the board. And then when we looked at the risks of not using a de-icing agent, they were quite great. So when you look at this matrix, it boils down to these numbers, which is the sum total of what would the risk be. The largest number that could be in that dark box would be 25. So the cumulative risk from this method of not using a de-icing agent is 14. The cumulative risk of using this particular de-icing agent is a 3.
Storm, we might also mention that we received, I believe, from the mayor, an email that the salts used in the extra melt are classified by the EPA as non-hazardous.
Right. Any other discussion?
Is that included in this report, Chris?
Any
That
other
was not
discussion?
included in that report.
Did you add that or send that to us? Do we have documentation?
If I can find the email, I will.
Yeah, I could not.
You can not.
Okay, other discussion before we go to vote. Okay, all those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Opposed, 6-1, thank you. Go ahead, Sean.
All right. So the last item from budget and finance discussion and action regarding town logo development and implementation. This within budget and finance on these dimensions, we didn't find there's currently any significant cost associated with it because the logo is not printed on anything, it's all digital. But we did discuss that there may be future uses to it. There will be costs associated with the development of the logo, depending on if we hire someone or make an award from a designer. But we concluded that that work fits more neatly under the internal operations committee. So we would like to commit it to IOC for program development.
Roberta.
I agree with that, and I thought the original motion for that, and that's why I was surprised to see it under your purview tonight. I thought we did make a motion for last meeting that it was to be under the IMC.
And it all works out in the end.
It does. I support
And I
that.
just went back to budget and finance because there were questions about if we had t-shirts, pens, that kind of thing, what the financial implication that would be. And I went back to IOC.
And that IOC and budget and finance can coordinate as it goes, if that's acceptable.
Yeah, that's fine. We don't need a motion, correct?
You know,
Roberta, would you ask Steve to come in? Thank you, Roberta.
So I'm getting that, because I'm on me, sir.
Mayor. Okay. For the month of September. The waterworks produced 6.5 million gallons, we built 3.5, accounting for water percentage works out about 45%. During that same time period, we have produced 81% of our water using the Potomac River. 19% of Elks Run. We were able, I think it was the hurricane that came up in Peru. Gave us that big storm, but we were able to use Elks Run for about a week after that. So that's the 19%, but we're back on the river right now with some of the rain getting, the last 2 days. We'll see if maybe we'll try to get back onto the other one for a little bit. But it's still not anywhere close to, back to normal. I did hear some discussion about, our expenses, chemical bill back 2020 is the one that we're predominantly have jacked that up. And we're using, right now, we're using about 2 pumps a week. And that with the Potomac River, that compares to about 2 pumps a quarter. When we've been on that one. That's at about $230 a pump. So, soon we can get off the better, but we don't have any way to, not to apply this.
Storm's just my name.
There you go.
You gotta go there and dance.
Is that going back and forth? Is that a complicated procedure?
Well,
That's what you talk to.
yeah, I think Molly will go back and forth, I would say, we kind of feel it, dial it in. It's, but, I'll say the Potomac as a backup source, and I can go back and look in, historical literature for that plant, it's always been a historical source. The chemistries and the actual, how do you really produce it? That's not something that we have really actively developed. When that plant was upgraded, and
I think everybody is aware of the need to trim the costs out of that whole project. The tonic source really was never touched. So we didn't upgrade, you know, the pumps to the electronics or anything like that. That whole plant is designed on basically balancing flows through the plant. And right now we have pumps that don't have speed controls on, the old pumps, no speed control. So we get whatever we can get. We're moving very valves. We try to follow the flow a little bit, but that's not a great long-term solution. And the signal wire to run from the plant over to the pumps, turn the pumps on, off and on, that was severed at some point, and so we are actually driving over to turn the pumps on when we start the plant and we'll drive back. So it's really, I mean, if we're really gonna be looking at a long-term solution, you know, there's a bit of work that we have to do to really bring it up. So we're making do, and you know, we do have a process down now. But it's not something, and we can't really blend it. Okay, because we can't generate, I mean, it'd be nice to run the Elks Run as much as good with, you know, some water just augmented. But it's not, you know, we can't control the speeds and balance the speeds of the pumps. All those plumbing just wasn't, you know, designed with the idea of any question for Steve? Okay. We have a resident who has expressed an interest for a temporary position on the Water Commission, and so I'll open up the floor to nominations.
George, I'd like to nominate Tim Wheatley for a temporary position on the Water Commission.
Okay, how about adding the sentence on there on not to exceed December 31st.
Well, that's a very short period of time.
Yeah, I know.
I'd say,
I'm just going by her. She hasn't said that date, but we can always, if we, at that particular time, I mean, she did say a temporary position, and your definition of that is probably the same as mine, which is, you know, I don't know what that is.
I'd like to say, let's make it not to exceed, go beyond April 1st. And in that way, that gives us, so I'll rephrase that. Okay, thank you. Sure. I'd like to nominate Kimberly Wheatley for temporary position on the Water Commission for a period, for a term not to exceed beyond April 1st, 2024.
Okay, we had a couple of hands up down there for Roberta and Nina.
I was just gonna recommend that we had a 4-month limit on the previous Water Commission interim position, so I'm just gonna offer 4 months, but I appreciate your.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the same thing. The previous one was 4 months, so that would end February, end of
I
February.
mean, she can always submit her resignation before it.
And she can always do that.
So is it April 1st?
April
Yeah.
1st, 2024, not 23.
Chris?
I just have a question about, you know, I'm grateful for volunteers for any committee. I'm wondering if the short-term service on the Water Commission is helpful.
It's better than no, we haven't had a meeting because there's no quorum. My last meeting probably was a couple of months ago, wasn't it? We just don't have, at least we can have a meeting, and I believe we have not been able to do that, Chris. Your point is well taken. But I just think we need to have a meeting. See what's out there. Okay, so there's no second or anything, it's just Nina will call a roll for the nominee. Your answer will be, if you support the nomination, is yes. If you do not support the nomination, you will say no.
All right, Roberta Curry,
Yes.
Stormy Stanhope,
Yes.
Greg Owens, Oh, sorry, George Owens. George Owens,
Yes.
Chris Craig,
Yes.
Zach Morris,
Yes.
and myself, yes, and.
Yes.
Okay.
Mayor, I wanted to note, included in the Bay Journal for September this year, the Alliance for Chesapeake Bay, in their Stewards Corner, had a special article, local officials learn stormwater solutions during West Virginia tour, about a tour that some of our folks here took in Berkeley Springs and the town of Bath, back, when was that, in July or something?
15 years ago.
Oh, earlier, okay.
No, anyway, that's fine.
Right in the picture there, Steve Parody, and back in the background, there's storms, so.
Okay.
And this wonderful publication is trying to find a new home, so would anyone like it?
Thank you. Historic Landmarks Commission, any,
No report.
no report?
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Planning Commission, Zach.
Okay, planning commission last met on September 19th, 2023. Discussed several things at length, including the Ridge Street trail connector we previously discussed here. As well as recommendations for the ad hoc committees, which was referred back to us. Another thing that was briefly discussed was the ongoing effort to identify locations on Washington Street where no parking here at corner signs might need to be in place. I did notice recently that several signs have appeared, so we can still make that recommendation, but I don't know if state highway put those up or if someone found them. Yeah, so that we may or may not have a recommendation. I will follow up on that one. Sorry if I moved to the next. Okay. So we already did 2. So 3 is discussion and action regarding recommendations for ad hoc committee or committee organization. During the last meeting, I attended remotely, but the mayor did ask for specific recommendations from planning. This is an issue that's gone back and forth a couple times. So I brought each ad hoc committee that I was aware of to a vote by the planning commission to see if the planning commission was interested in recommending that they be moved under planning, as was suggested previously, or that a member from planning maybe be placed on the ad hoc committee, which is another suggestion. Of all of the ad hoc committees, the votes were essentially to leave them all alone except for 2. And so I have 2 motions related to those, which we can then discuss. So the first motion is related to the street lighting and dark skies ad hoc committees. I move that the street lighting ad hoc committee and the dark skies ad hoc committee be combined into a single ad hoc committee under the town council to be referred to as the dark skies and street lighting committee, which shall be composed of 3 volunteer members who are all citizens of Harpers Ferry, who shall be nominated by the town council to serve 2-year terms. This is in discussing these, the planning commission realized that the purview of street lighting and dark skies overlap quite a bit, and the suggestion was that they be combined into one. I don't know if either has met recently or if there are any active members, but it was not on our agenda, but there was expressed a need for a dark sky ordinance that could be generated from this committee.
Second on the motion, second from Chris, discussion on the motion. Roberta, then Storm, then George.
Yes, I was there at the planning commission meeting and I actually put forward the motion to combine the 2. But I did not, this is a surprise to me, to the number of members. So I don't agree with the portion of your motion that squashes the number of members. Dark Skies Committee already exists out there, it's being resurrected. There are a lot more members than 3. And there are some of the historical members that have been out there, and me myself, I'm a new member. So there's a lot more members. So I think I would like to just have you strike the members right now, because I think the existing committee is already out there. In fact, we're gonna announce a meeting next week. So
Just a quick point of information. Who is on the dark sky? I didn't know it had any members, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm learning who they are, okay, because they're coming to me and say, hey, I want to meet again, let's do this, let's do this. Okay, well, let's call a meeting, then if you guys exist, let's call a meeting. Okay, because I think you guys need to call me. And so there is probably, there's probably 8 members on that committee right now.
Is this documented anywhere?
Yeah.
I, you know, in that room somewhere, I hope that the Dark Sky Ties getting met. They're sending me information that they exist, okay, when we had our dark sky. Presentation at the library, they came up to us and said, hey, we exist, hey, great, start making things happen.
If they have, it's been an illegal meeting.
No, I don't know if that they've met, okay, they're coming to me and say they exist, they wanna meet. They wanna come out of the darkness, no pun intended, and start making meetings again. So I don't know what they did in the past. I mean, I'm getting emails that says they did all this stuff, so.
Well, club or?
If it was a dark sky committee, from what I understand, and again, ordinance review even received, information from the dark sky committee to start a dark sky ordinance. That died 2 years ago. Okay, so it's been some time from what I understand that they've met. But they want to resurrect themselves. So I don't think we should tie it to 3 members. Because the committee technically already exists.
Okay, given it's either effectively been debunked or meeting illegally for 2 years, I think it's fair to consider this to be a fresh committee. And that, you know, we can talk about the number and composition and the rest. I'm also not certain if this is an ad hoc committee, I think that can make sense versus a standing committee, but was it discussed kind of what the parameters and mission of this is? Because I feel like absolutely, like getting that dark sky ordinance up and running is important and a priority, but is that the same thing as the executive part, and what is that doing? So I don't, I'd say right now I wouldn't be comfortable going forward with that without really knowing what it is.
What is your it?
What it is doing, what is its mandate?
Yeah.
What the committee's mandate is?
Nina.
I think maybe planning as they're proposing that this become a single ad hoc committee could come up with a mission statement and some sort of guidelines. Like a 1-pager, and then we could use that to sort of base our then decision off of. So maybe, I'm not sure, we should send it back to planning to do that, or?
Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, so the planning commission made the recommendation that it should be combined, and
Yeah.
I tried to suss out a motion that would do that. I don't think they're currently under the purview of planning, so I wouldn't recommend that planning make recommendations on them. I think it would fall to the town council, since it's an ad hoc committee or committees, I'm not sure, but more information is clearly needed, so I'm happy to table this.
Well, do you feel it's kind of new territory? Are we the body to determine that? Do we need?
Well, I think we need a document very similar to what Roberta's working on with ORC and Storm and Budget and Finance and meeting yours. I know Parking Committee is putting your document together. So when we have a committee like this, I'm thinking that this even takes the position of a standing committee, not an ad hoc committee. Ad hoc is set up for a specific period of time for a specific purpose. Standing committee is ongoing. I would hope that the dark sky will be ongoing and it's not just, going to take place for a couple of weeks and then you get abandoned. Yeah.
Well, we could now decide if we wanted to make it a standing committee and then have it open to whoever wants to apply to be on it, who then could decide what the mission statement and the guidelines would be. Maybe that's the best way to.
Yeah. And let's do it right. If we go through this.
But I don't think planning commission said they wanted however many number of members they wanted, nor did we say that it was gonna be a standing committee, nor did we say that it was limited to 3, and nor did we say it was gonna be 3 town council members. So I
was recognized to speak out of Storm, I want to sort myself in.
Go ahead.
Thank you. There's more questions. I have more questions, and I decided not to ask them because there's endless questions. And I think this ought to be put it back to planning. And I think you ought to ask these wonderful individuals to meet with planning and put together a plan for this committee. They ought to be able to say what they'd like to be. And I'm always in favor of having the people who do the work, try and make the form, let form be function. So I would like to ask you to remove that motion from the, did you make a motion already? I think you did.
Yes.
And I'd like to make a motion after you do that, and to that effect. Now yield to whoever's recognized next.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel it's important to define the purpose before you charge people with carrying it out. That we're putting the horse before the cart. That, yes, we appreciate and want people to step up and work for the town. But it is our judgment as town council members that needs to guide it. So I feel like to panel a group of people to carry out a purpose that's not defined is not nice.
Let's hear their report.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's hear their report.
Exactly.
I'll just add a little bit, this all generated from a potential, the thought of potentially moving any of these ad hoc committees under planning. And the planning commission was fairly clear by majority vote that they did not want either of these under the purview of planning, so I hesitate to ask them to take more time to address a committee that's not under them currently, and they don't want under them. So I think it might fall to the town council to.
Would you be open to asking them as a town council member?
Sure, yes, yeah, we could, yeah. But yeah, so I withdraw the motion.
Okay. All right, you're comfortable with that?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion.
Go ahead, Jordan.
I move that the town councilman Zach Morris meet with the members of the current ad hoc dark sky committee and street lighting committee to compile recommendations to submit to town council for that finished committee.
Now, for one suggestion.
Sir.
To revise the current committee, because again, I don't feel like either it doesn't exist or it's been meeting illegally to approach people looking at dark sky issues and the current street lighting ad hoc individuals.
Was that language or a suggestion?
A little both. Most of my suggestions are in language.
Yeah, but I mean, add to the motion.
Yes. Or just to
Give
revise
it a roll.
term. Say, just swapping out the term dark sky committee with
And street lighting.
yes, please. Okay. So how about we call the dark sky folks, you have a suggestion for this?
No, keep talking, I'm gonna listen to what you have to say.
Okay, okay.
I have a suggestion here.
Okay, if you have a suggestion, please.
I don't understand the intent of your
All right,
suggestion.
go ahead, Scar.
Go ahead, just tell me what it is and then we'll.
Okay, the intent is to not recognize a committee that may or may not exist, or that if it does exist, may have acted illegally. So by calling it something other than the dark sky committee, it sidesteps it. So. And the question is, how do we define people who have been looking at these in an independent way?
Gotcha. I think what your
Yes.
purpose is.
Yes.
And I got the solution.
Great.
Okay.
What's the solution, please tell me.
I'm gonna make a motion. Are you gonna make a motion, Jordan? Go ahead.
I move that the council direct Councilman Zachary Taylor, Zachary Morris
Street speaking.
to meet with the members of the groups referred to as dark sky and street lighting. Go. And take suggestions for the form that a combined committee should take for council consideration.
Can I have a suggestion to that?
Is there a second on the motion?
May I have a suggestion to your language?
First.
Okay, I'll second it. May I like to amend it? Good with that? Second, I'd like to amend, I'd like to add my name, Roberta May Curry, as a town council member. To Zach to partner with him to get that information because I am a member of that committee.
I second the adding of. Roberta Curtis.
Discussion on the motion. Zach.
I'm still confused, because to my knowledge, at least on the town website and other town information. Neither of these committees have been currently meeting in an active sense, so.
As George laid it out, it doesn't say it's a committee, there's
Right.
the folks that have been looking at dark sky and the folks that have been running around the street lighting, talk to them.
So,
If they exist.
right, so this motion would be to identify if these exist, and if they do.
They do.
talk.
We have clues and breadcrumbs.
Okay.
Any other discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. Opposed? Main motion, any discussion on the main motion? All those in favor of the main motion? No.
There's one other, which is all on the same agenda.
Yeah, we are. Stormwater.
So the other recommendation from the planning commission related to the stormwater committee, and so I have a related motion, I move that one seat on the stormwater ad hoc committee be designated as the planning commission representative, which shall always be filled by a member of the planning commission, and that Paul Thomas, who currently serves on both stormwater and planning commission, continue in this position as the planning commission representative to stormwater until the end of this current term.
Second on the motion, second from Chris, discussion on the motion. All those in favor of the motion? Okay. Zach.
Okay, back to the agenda. Discussion regarding Jefferson County Preferred Growth Area in Harper's Ferry in the 2045 County Comprehensive Plan. On September 18th, I attended a county planning commission meeting where they're discussing the 2045 County Comprehensive Plan. And meeting went very well. At the end, they presented a map which included on it several what they call preferred growth districts. And I don't know if anyone's aware of this. I have extra copies of an amended map on the table here.
Same as Jean.
Yes, same of that. I took their, yeah, that's the one. I took the sort of the area they had presented and just put it on Google Maps. Could be easier to see because their map had no reference points. It was described to me that a preferred growth area is a region that would be encouraged to have additional residential or commercial development. These preferred growth areas were designated throughout the county in areas adjacent to established water distribution networks. So the idea here is that this area, which encompasses the intersection of Bakerton Road and 340, adjacent to national parkland, be encouraged for development that would connect to the Harper's Ferry Bolivar water distribution network. And I personally know there's been decades of history of citizens trying to keep this area undeveloped. The national park was expanded a couple times to encompass surrounding areas. And I did leave a comment with them that they should contact Harper's Ferry Bolivar just to get additional input. And I wanted to make sure that the public and the council was aware of this potential plan and change to the area.
Thank you. The comment. Roberta, then Storm.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mayor. So when they say preferred development, does that also mean that they intend to increase the density that's already established for their current zoning? Are they gonna change any of that and increase the density?
That was not clear. It was just that this area, which is mostly undeveloped land, is designated, so partly undeveloped land to the north of 340. I believe river riders exist on the south side of that border. And then I think part of the national park land is also in there, which obviously wouldn't be developed.
Well, there's the Wilkes, produce stand and a structure there, but yeah, it's not.
Okay, so none of it's in a conservancy, nature conservancy, land conservancy already.
Not to my knowledge, except for part which I believe is in the national park.
Okay.
No action on that, just making sure everyone's aware, and if you feel inclined to reach out to the county planning commission to do so individually.
And can we have Steve Parody look at, do we know if the impacts to our water are gonna be X? Do they know how many residents they're planning that we need to calculate into?
So again, this wasn't a specific plan for residences or businesses, just an area designated to encourage the growth and development, which my knowledge, for decades, citizens have. been-
Yeah, I wanna thank Zach for attending the county planning meetings on this and you know, just alert us all, you know, we keep pretty busy with our own business, but the county is moving forward on its comprehensive plan. You know, they're further along than we are right now, so something to keep our eye on.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, considering we're currently gulping Potomac River water just to serve our current folks, that this is certainly something we want to be at the table. Thank you, Zach. Yes.
Exactly. Roberta, ORC report.
So you want, okay, thank you, Mayor. Okay, I do have extra copies of the public one to see what I have produced, and I have reports to send myself. Thank you for the record. Keep it brief, basically, the ORC met, September 22nd was our last meeting. We have approved our July 28, 2023 meeting minutes, which I've attached for your review. And we still in search of records and still trying to put together the historical record, archival record for ORC. Under unfinished business, the mayor had requested us to look at a couple items, but as of the email attached, dated 9/13/2023, those items have been removed from our purview. We also did a meeting with Christy Huddle, came to the meeting as the representative for the tree commission, and we in turn discussed what to do with that, and then town council actually resolved some of that for us by resending the motions. We are currently working on a written statement, hopefully we will present that tonight as a draft. We have looked at the waterworks rates that were updated from the PSC and found it to be in compliance with the town ordinance. I think you asked us to do that, and we are stating here that we found them in compliance. We also met with the Parks and Rec chair. They asked us to continue to look at Article 735 and Section 35.29 in regards to possible text amendment for clarifications on definitions and application of permit process and zoning, so that the special event ordinance might go through some changes in the future once we finish our study. Also requested, let's see, the mayor and town council approved us to look at how the committees are appointed and nominated, appointed, and approved. And we're in the process of doing that. We've done our first level of review of that. And I think our subsequent meeting will be a workshop on brainstorming what that text language might look like. New business, ORC received requests to review definition, rule, regulations for short-term rentals. And review to do update regulations to short-term rentals. This stuff is in progress as well. BZA has requested ORC to clarify and develop a definition for permanent structure versus non-permanent structure. And we have yet to meet on that, but we are brainstorming and doing some research, and we'll be ready for our next meeting.
Questions for Roberta? Thank you. It's a nice report.
Thank you, and thank you for letting me to do it tonight.
Parking committee over here. In IOC.
Yeah, so the IOC met, we had 2 items on our agenda, which was discussing the town logo adoption process and also the creation of a new website. Verlissa, our town clerk, was also in attendance at the meeting, and it was determined we don't have any items within the town office that need to be replaced with a logo. We don't have pens, stationery, anything like that. Currently, all stationery is it's a Word document that has the logo on it that's then printed. So there's no need to replace anything, so there's no financial impact of working with creating a logo. So the next step is kind of deciding on the process of how we're selecting a new logo and which direction we want to head with that. We also met regarding the website, sort of determining what our options are as far as hiring a third-party company, or if we would like to use a platform such as Wix. The next step that was determined is that we will be or I will be creating a list of sort of functions that seem to be common on other town websites. And then from there, we will be determining what the best option is as far as platforms or third-party companies are when it comes to adopting those features. And that will be at our next meeting.
Are there any metrics on the current website as to which pages or areas are viewed and used the most?
No, but that is a good, I will look into that.
I just know I'm always clicking on town council and then ordinances to get to the ordinances and.
I think with Google Analytics, we probably can pull that, so I'll look into that.
Thank you, Neil. Any questions for me? Who's got the next agenda item? Actually, that's one. Discussion action regarding ad hoc committee mission statement. Who's gonna take the lead on that?
I can speak to it.
Okay.
So yeah, the ad hoc committee charged to come up with the mission statements for the 3 standing committees. Met a few times and we have reached a consensus on the mission statements and duties of each of them. And harmonize them so that they all have basically the same format. And I sent that out, the final versions this afternoon. I don't know if everyone has had a chance to review them. So they are a true product of consensus. And that basically leave intact what each of these functions are. And in addition to that, we also will have a recommendation about putting something to codify these particular standing committees in ordinances. So I'm going to go ahead and move to adopt the mission statements and duties and responsibilities. Oh, before I do that, the important thing, because of the way that this item was written, it only has IOC and ORC in it. It doesn't mention budget and finance.
There's a typo on the agenda.
Well, the question is that material, at this point, can we only proceed with IOC and ORC and need to sanction budget and finance at a later meeting because it is not listed?
I'd like to make a point of information here, if they make that move. I found a omission on the ORC that you need that they have to confer upon. So that might rule that out this evening. And I also on the IOC have a suggestion that perhaps we would want to postpone the decision on these, and also given the fact that these drafts were only sent to the council for in-depth reading. I just devoted a half an hour quickly before I know here. I think everybody should have more chance to digest.
Yes.
So I would make this suggestion.
George said, I had a couple questions that didn't seem to gel with me. I wanted to discuss and get clarification. Didn't make sense. So what George is saying is making sense to me. I'm willing to give my comments.
Sure.
I'm willing, I'd like to hear yours. I'd like to make a couple comments.
I don't know if we want to do that now. Just give it back to the 3 of you.
If you could, in writing, provide some of that
Yeah.
feedback, and we
Yeah,
can
please.
postpone the discussion for a future meeting.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because absolutely, these are our consensus recommendations.
Yeah, so
And yeah, if you've read it and already have questions, then yeah, please send it
Just
to
real
us.
quickly, ORC, there's no meeting section.
No regular meeting.
No, it doesn't say anything about it.
I correct.
It's utterly omitted.
We took it out.
Utterly omitted.
We took it out.
Okay, we just get all of our comments. George got some, I got some.
Okay, I'll submit it later.
And we'll give them to who? Which one of the 3 of you?
He's the chair.
And we'll give them. the-
Even if it's not everybody.
And
You're gonna act on it next
Next
month then?
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
I mean,
That, yeah, just send it in writing that way when we meet.
Yeah. Okay, Zach, I got 4.
I was attending virtually at the last meeting, so I may have missed this in the connection, but was the parking committee going through this process as well?
They are going through this process now.
So when we review these 3 next time, would we also be?
Maybe they'll be done. Okay, by then.
Hold on,
think that's a strong possibility that they can make some recommendations. Okay, so we know what we're doing. If you have comments, George has got comments, I have comments, Chris, I don't know if you or Zach, and we'll get them to Storm. Okay, great. All right. And that takes us to, one word left on the agenda.
Would you adjourn?
All those in favor of adjourning, 7:00, adjourned at 9:11 to 12.
Record time.
This sets a record. Wow.
My
Comment, you wanted